Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you to a new episode of CxO Global Forum. My name is Wadia Nauman, and I'm here to have a discussion with a very talented and young personality. As you all know, that CxO is a knowledge sharing platform for all C levels across the globe. So today we have an honor to meet very talented and a very best personality, Sahar Iqbal, with us. She's a partner at Akhund Forbes. So how are you, Sahar?
I'm very well, and thank you for the very generous introduction, Wadia. It's a pleasure to be speaking to you today.
It's an honor for us to have you been invited at our platform. So let's just have a discussion on what have you been doing so far, Sahar, like your achievements so far in the Khund. Then tell us more about the Khund. That how did you just get to know about that you have to be a partner in it?
Okay, so when I graduated as a lawyer, I was called to the bar of England and Wales, and I came back. This was 2009, and when I came back, the country and the world was going through a similar economic slump. Coincidentally, the founders of the law firm where now I'm a partner, they had also come back, not come back. They were both Pakistani, but they were working in different leading financial centers of the world. One of them was in the UK, London, the other was in Australia. And they decided to come back, set up a law firm in Pakistan, and the law firm would be similar to an international or to an English law firm, because that's the kind of ethics and professional services we wanted to give to our clients in Pakistan. So, two things that, and we also wanted to bring international investment and international clients to Pakistan. So coincidentally, I had just finished my education. I had just been called to the bar, and I met different law firms, but I thought that their ethics was different and more professional and more suited to what I was looking for. Because I also wanted, I think initially I wanted to probably come back to Pakistan and give back to the country, but I always wanted to work with an international law firm as well. And I thought, why not do it with these guys who are promising to bring these services to Pakistan, and I'll be in my home country as well. So I started working with them. It was my first job technically, and I became a partner in a couple of years. It was challenging because I was it was it happened before I would expect. I was also young, and with with a role and responsibility, you also have to deal with challenges, and it can also be stressful. And it was also learning on the go, because I think law is one of those few. I can't speak about the other professions, but law is one field where what you study gives you some basic theoretical ground, but it's only when you start working that you are dealing with different clients and different cases, and you're learning on the go. So it was a steep learning curve, but Allah was kind, Alhamdulillah. And what you need to be very dedicated, sincere, and honest with your work. And there's a lot of hard work. There was a lot of hard work over the years, a lot of personal sacrifices, but also good professional opportunities, good clients to work with, and family support is also important. So I think my family, they let me do what I wanted to do. I mean, they used to joke that I would treat my house as just bread and breakfast, because there were days when I would work for 20, 22 hours at a stretch. But then at the end of the day, I think law, maybe like medicine, is one of those. It's a profession, it's a calling. It's not a business, it's a profession and calling. So if you treat that as a calling, and if your intention really is to give back to the society, to do good work, to give back to the society, the country, to everybody you're dealing with, then I do feel that that's a very, very important factor to keep in mind as you progress in your career.
Yes, that is. So, what does your current role at Akhund like define you on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so I've been a partner for, I mean, even as an associate, there were a lot of transactions where I had to I had to step up, learn, deal with clients, and as a partner, then of course, then it's your responsibility. So even your associates who are working for you need to make sure that everything is correct, because at the end of the day, it's your neck on the line. And so, like I said, initially, we predominantly our practice is with international clients. In fact, we recently opened, I think we're probably the first Pakistani law firm to open an international office in Bangladesh. So before the pandemic as well, our we've always thought of going global and having an international expansion, but we were just so busy before the pandemic. And during the pandemic, of course, we were all dealing with different challenges, and we're trying to accept the new norm. So now, when things are a little stable, we sort of focused back on our plan, and Bangladesh. I mean, it was one country at some point in time, so it was very familiar. We I mean, even India to an extent, when we meet lawyers from India or when we meet lawyers from the South Asian region, they're so friendly. They're so friendly. And it's always so, even with Indian lawyers, or with any international lawyers, we work with them, whether directly or to help them service their clients. So, my work or my firm's work, we do have domestic clients, so, conglomerates, etc, but we also work with a lot of international clients and international law firms. But over
Right.
the last couple of years, I've tried to focus on public sector projects. And I think that was natural because during the pandemic or during a recession or an economic slowdown, public sector work picks up. And it's a very, very different, the nature of work is very different. So from doing corporate commercial work to working with the government, you feel like you're giving back to the society, right?
Right.
You're working on projects, sanitation, infrastructure, etc. And you see that taking place in the country, in the city that you live in the society you live in. And you do feel that it's gratifying. I mean, it's gratifying in a different way because at the end of the day, you're giving back. I know people would say that I mean, my firm does charge for it, yes, but that's not the primary goal. The goal is to make sure that the quality and service of public sector works and transaction and contracts improve. So I remember during the pandemic when everything was closed, it was a lockdown, everybody was at home, the government was working. And I do have to commend them. They were working. I'd be there going to their offices. That was also new because I'm not a litigation lawyer. So I'm in my office meeting people, and we've been dealing with clients for a number of years through Zoom, Blue Jeans, Teams, etc. So for us, switching to virtual meetings during the pandemic wasn't very new because we'd been doing that. But yes, working with the government and public sector projects was a very different experience, and you learn a lot. I mean, I think as lawyers, you learn, or any other professional, you learn every day, and that's the key. You need to. There should be that hunger to learn because it's not just a business; it's gaining knowledge and then imparting that knowledge to others. So,
Right.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, because this is something, Sahar, that internationally, if you see in the law firms, at the commercial complex litigation, then there is a business immigration, then there is a student immigration, then mergers and acquisitions. So, how do you see yourself in these sectors that you're strong and you're trying to put that experience and exposure in Pakistan, being a and holder of an international degree?
So I think we were able to do that at a very early stage of our firm. So even when the firm opened, we were working because we were essentially a corporate commercial law firm. So our focus was on cross-border M&A. And I
Right.
think that's the change that we tried to bring in, and that's the change that some of our clients also felt. So that's something that we try to do from our first transaction, and that's something that even now. So even if you're doing the same transaction, even if it's a cross-border transaction, every time we try and see how we can improve the precedent and how we can think out of the box and work on innovative structure, because I think Pakistan is a very traditional society and country, and law as a profession is also traditional. So I think there needs to be that improvement in order for us to grow within the region and to grow globally as well. And we saw that. So just before the pandemic, we did see a lot of activity in Pakistan, and because we were working, with our counterparts in different countries, we felt that Pakistan was finally at a stage where we would be able to work in harmony, and as well as our counterparts who've been working much longer than us. But so that's what we've been trying to bring in.
Well, that's really impressive, and that's something which I have heard new. Something being in a law firm and being an attorney and a partner
Exactly.
as well. This is something an achievement. I should be just taking it that way. So, Sahar, who's your mentor, and like how important is it for you to have a mentor?
Very, very. I think it's extremely crucial, because a good mentor can make you, and a bad mentor can break you.
Yes.
So my founding partners were, as I said, they were both working. One was in London and the other was in Australia. So they were working at leading financial centers, and their exposure, there was a lot to learn from their exposure.
Right.
And coming back and working in Pakistan and trying to bring something different to Pakistan was also new and challenging for them. So, I was part of that. I was part of that journey, and I saw, and it's very important as a lawyer. It's very, very important to, how do you learn? You learn by observing your mentors and seniors.
Right.
Um, and also, you need to put in a lot of effort. You need to continuously improve yourself technically. So that's I think that is, and it's very important having a good mentor, and then being a good mentor to your juniors now, very, very important.
Yeah, so you're in a position that in a leadership role, right? So you must be having so many attorneys and people around you whom you can learn from, and because learning is something that you learn on a daily basis, right? So this is something
Exactly.
that you're in a learning phase, and you are having the people around you whom you are mentoring.
Hmm. And you sometimes you learn together. So even
Mhm.
as a senior, sometimes when you're working with your associates on a transaction, you
Mhm.
learn from them and you learn with
Yes,
them. And
yes.
it's a big responsibility. I mean, I say this even to my mentors, that once you hire somebody, they're not seat fillers, right? They're just not there to sit. It's a big
Mhm.
responsibility, because you need to groom them in their professional and sometimes
Mhm.
personal capacity as well. So it's very
Yes.
important.
Yes, it is. It is. So, Sahir, if I talk about the current openings in your organization, so when it comes to paralegals, and whether if it is practice assistants, then the legal attorneys and people having specialized degrees in law. So, what do you see the future of Pakistan? That how you can just accommodate them in a way so that the law is something that you appreciate them.
That's a very good question. So, if I compare the law graduates from my time to the current time, the number is huge.
Mm-hmm.
At my time, there weren't a lot of, not a lot of students opted for law. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
number of law graduates it's huge, and even the kind of education they're getting now in Pakistan, it's very good. So
Mm-hmm.
we are at a stage now where the turnout from law school is a significant number, but because the country is going through a slowdown, they are not necessarily able to find recruitments.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you would have asked me this question just before the pandemic, at that time, I mean, for the first time probably in my career, I felt overwhelmed, because there were just so many complex projects happening, and you needed good support, you needed hands on deck. Um, but that is not to say, so even now when things are slightly slow, we can use that period to train our associates or
Mm-hmm.
paralegals, so that when the next transaction comes, they're able to deliver.
Right, right. That's quite impressive. And if I talk about Seher, what do you suggest and what do you advise for the mid-level career professionals and for having, the students, that what is your motivation for them so that they can, opt the law field?
See, I think this is true for everybody, whether students, whether fresh graduates, whether people in early stages of their career, or even somebody in their mid career or seniors. At this point in time, we need to keep our heads down. And this, I've been saying this to a lot of people. Things will pick up, right? So we must
Mm.
always be positive. Yes, we this stretch has been longer than what anybody would have expected, but we use this time to gain knowledge, to learn, and to keep our focus, because it's very easy to get distracted, to lose focus, to become complacent. We must not let that happen. Just keep yourself engaged in activities either related, directly related to your profession, or something else that keeps your intellect and your brain stimulated, because as you know, an empty brain is never good for anybody.
Yes, yes, that's true. And what is your motivation, Sahar, that you just joined the law? Being a
I
girl, and this is something very interesting for me to
Yes.
have a very young girl in law and this much, as a partner. So, what was your
Yes.
motivation?
um okay, so nobody in my immediate family is a lawyer, male or female.
Okay.
And I think I think probably they wanted, my family probably would have preferred me to be a doctor. And I think until probably mid school, I also wanted to be a doctor, but I thought it's not something I'll be able to do day in, day out. And it might sound very cliched, but I've always wanted to bring a change in society. And I do. I mean, I've always looked up to Qaeda Azam. And so I think I would have loved to be in politics, because that's how you can actually directly make change. But that's something my family would have really put their foot down on. And I knew that's something I would not be able to do practically, because I come from a traditional family. I come from an old school traditional family. And I was brought up by my grandparents, just because, they gotten done with everything else in their life, and I was the first grandchild, so they brought me up, and they were very progressive. And had it not been for my grandparents, I don't think I would have become a lawyer and been able to, because I will have to say that the kind of professional experience I've had, it required round the clock dedication. It would not have been it would have been unmanageable had I not had the freedom to do what I wanted to do. um, and I did. So once I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, there were some, I mean, my parents weren't extremely excited about it, but because I had my grandparents support, and they wanted, see, they said, just, they've always said, do well in your studies, do well in your profession, whatever you want to do. And so it was a challenge in that way as well. It was a challenge in that way as well. But you have to work hard, you have to be sincere with your profession, you have to be dedicated, and you have to be focused. And at the end of the day, your intentions need to be pure and honest. Every time you're working on a transaction, just make sure you're doing good for your client and you're doing good for everybody else, whether it's a small transaction, whether it's a big transaction. And so people have different motivational factors in their lives. I think for me, it's always been to be productive, to give back, to do good. There should be a purpose in life, right? I mean, yes, you have your personal life, but there should always be a person in life, and everything can work in balance. So I think that's the answer.
But if we talk about the work-life balance, that you have told me that you have worked for like 20 to 22 hours a day. So that is something that you have done.
I have done. I mean, normally when we were working, sometimes when we would be working on transactions, multiple transactions for months, not even a year, for months,
Right.
for more than a year, we would be working at a stretch. But see, you need to enjoy what you're doing, right? You don't need to see this as a burden. It does get stressful. It does get tedious. It does tire you physically. But if you have a good support team, both at your workplace and at home, and it's possible. And you really need to have your skin in the game. You need to be strong with yourself, right? So if you've decided to come into it, that's it. I mean, you don't need to. It's very easy to get demotivated or to think of quitting or to take it easy, but there needs to be a lot of commitment. There needs to be a lot of commitment. And as I said, people have different factors in their lives. What works for somebody doesn't work for anybody else. Somebody else might not have enjoyed the kind of work or experience I've had, but then I might not enjoy some of the activities that other people do. So it really depends on the person as well.
And as you have said before, that having a generational gap and a support from grandparents and from parents as well is a main thing. I must say that for any, not even a girl, for anybody who is going to be in a challenging phase. So having a support from home and having a support from team as well, this is something that you have a very positive attribute towards work.
Yes, and you need to be so. Even now, the last couple of years, the pandemic and with the sort of slowdown in the country, it hasn't been easy, and it did affect me. It still affects and impacts me. I think initially, we were all hoping that things would get back on track, and now things are normal. I mean, everything seemingly is back. We're all back, but we do know that it's not exactly the same as it was before. And it's a little disappointing because we were in a phase where we actually saw the future, we saw the growth trajectory of the country, and and then to see things. And we generally, as a country, I've always said we have tremendous potential. We have tremendous potential. We haven't tapped that. I just hope that as a nation, we don't become a little complacent, and that we keep our eyes on the prize. And we need to step up every time we need. And one thing I'll say is, this is something I felt more strongly than ever during the pandemic. We need to be selfless. If we only think about ourselves and we're self-centered and self-absorbed, nobody succeeds. There's no growth. We need to be selfless. We need to think about others. We need to think about the greater good. It sounds very cliched, but it's something I've always believed in.
So what is Sahar's motto for life? Like, what is the motto that you
I
have
think I
always been following?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned that. I think it's to be a good person personally, in your personal life, with
Right.
your family, and also not just your family or the people you live with at home, but everybody you meet. You need to My motto is to bring a positive change in everybody's lives.
Positive.
That's I
Right. Right.
genuinely, because what's the purpose, right? You need to do good. Yes, you need to take care of yourself as well, but sometimes taking care of yourself means being good to others, and just having a positive outlook. So
Right.
I think that's very important. And
Right.
always look for ways to help others, because more than ever, there are a lot of people who need our help. There is the gap between the haves and have nots have increased. It's very, very important to be on the lookout for people who need your help. Not
And it
just
is
sit
our
and
social responsibility as well. This is something that
and
our social
exactly,
responsibility.
and not just within your house or within your workplace, but look a little beyond that. Actively
Right.
try and find people you can work. You need to give back. I mean, sure, taking care of your parents and your children and your spouse, that comes naturally. That's your obligation, right? But then there needs to be, what is the higher purpose? And until we think we expand our goals and horizon, we will, because we need to collectively, one person cannot make a difference, that's true. So collectively we need to make a difference, and we need to change our perspective.
Right. So what do you think is the utility of forums like CXO Global?
Oh, I've been very pleasantly surprised. Okay, I will admit that until a couple of years ago, I did not have a lot of time to join forums. It was always at the back of my mind to join a forum. And I think what has happened during the pandemic, and after the pandemic has ended, people are now looking to network, because if actual work is slow, people are networking, meeting other people to make sure that they know people like-minded, and it's very important to have like-minded people. So CxO as a forum, it's everybody I've met or interacted with is has been like-minded, which has been it's been a source of pleasure. And they exactly what I've been saying. I feel that their motto syncs or resonates with my motto as well. So the forum consists of good, like-minded people who want to make a change in the society, who are hardworking, who are dedicated, and it's different from the other forums. So a lot of forums have mushroomed in the last few months, and but I haven't felt a lot of utility from the other forums. With CxO, it's been a pleasure being part of CxO.
Right. So thank you so much, Sahar. It's been an honor in speaking to you, and we hope to see many more contributions from you.
Inshallah.
So all the best for your upcoming projects within the law firm and outside as well.
Thank
So
you.
speaking to Ms. Seher is always, and more members is always a reminder that CxO Global is trying to put the brightest minds together. So thank you so much, Seher, for your time, and I really enjoyed our conversation and
It
wish
was a
you all the
pleasure.
best.
Thank you. And I wish CXO and I wish the country, our citizens, all the best.
Thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you. Thank you.
Allah Hafiz.
Hafiz.